Morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'll call this meeting of the Community Growth and Economic Development Committee for Tuesday, May the 6th, 2025 to order. Can we have a roll call, please, Madam Clerk? Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing, hearing none. Could I have a motion to adopt the minutes of our meeting of March 4th? Moved by Councillor Shied, seconded by Mayor Watton. Any comments, questions, or otherwise? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We have no statutory public meetings. We'll now move to presentation. I'm going to ask Simon Gill, the Director of Economic Development and Tourism, to introduce our presenter today. Please, if you would, Simon.
Thank you, Chair. So I do have the pleasure to introduce a guest from the Hamilton Oshawa Port Authority, Larissa Fenn, who's their Vice President of Corporate Affairs, who's joining us. Larissa, please join us at the lectern there. And Larissa will be giving us an update, a general update on the recent happenings at the Oshawa Port and more generally the activities of HOPA in looking forward to grow the economic prosperity between both regions of Hamilton and Oshawa and Durham region. So thank you.
Terrific. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And of course. How's that? Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of this committee. I am really pleased to be here. I am Larissa Fenn of the Hamilton Oshawa Port Authority. And this is our first presentation to this group. We have presented before to the Agricultural Committee at Durham Region, for example. And so keeping that in mind, I'm going to go through a bit of an introduction to the Hamilton Oshawa Port Authority before I move into some things that we have on the front burner at this moment. And my real goal with this presentation today, and I really do appreciate the opportunity to speak to this audience, is really just to further the connections between HOPA and the conversations that we have within the Durham region, and for you to know that HOPA is really proud to be a partner with the Durham region and open to collaborating as we develop the Port of Oshawa. Is this going to? There we go. So some of you will already know this, but I want to set the stage a little bit for folks who may not be as familiar or people at home who may not be as familiar with port authorities in Canada. HOPA is one of 17 port authorities in Canada. And we're a type of federal entity. We're a type of federal entity called a government business enterprise. We're self-funded by our own operations, and we report to our own board of directors. We have a mandate to facilitate trade and to support Canadian industry by developing industrial spaces with high-quality multimodal infrastructure. And that last piece is really important. We're not in the business of owning and leasing just any industrial lands. We really do specialize and focus on land that has access to transportation infrastructure, especially marine and rail infrastructure. It's increasingly scarce in Ontario, and it's our job to use these spaces productively to drive trade and economic prosperity in the communities where we do business. And everything we earn as a port authority from leasing those lands does go back into the development of our ports and the transportation assets that are located there. And while we share a mandate with every port authority across Canada, we do see the Great Lakes as incredibly special and unique. And so our own vision is to create and lead a sustainable integrated port network on the Great Lakes to drive supply chain resilience. And that is really our North Star. It guides our actions on our lands. And as I'll get into in a moment, some of the innovations that we're trying to advance to change the way we think and move goods around the Great Lakes region. 5.5 years ago, there was no HOPA, just the Port of Hamilton and the Port of Oshawa. And today we've really begun to realize this vision of an integrated port Great Lakes network, bringing together the ports of Hamilton, the Port of Oshawa, as well as multimodal industrial spaces in the Niagara region. And so as a single network, we now have stewardship of more than 1,400 acres of land, multimodal industrial land throughout the Golden Horseshoe, and our tenant terminals handle more than 10 million tons of cargo a year. We have more than 180 tenant companies who together employ more than 2,400 people on port lands, but the cargo that transits the ports, that transits all of our ports, is connected through those supply chains to more than 40,000 jobs in Ontario, through supply chains like steelmaking, obviously, manufacturing, construction materials, agriculture, and others. Our head office is in Hamilton, but we have staff in all 3 locations. The GTHA, as you know, is Canada's most populous and economically dynamic region, so it really does make sense to us to take a regional lens on how goods are moved throughout the region and how to invest in our national critical infrastructure with a Great Lakes perspective. Just a few highlights of the cargo that does transit our ports. Right now, Great Lakes ports in both Canada and the US are mostly what we would call bulk or break bulk ports. And so not containers like the big container ports you might see in Vancouver or in Los Angeles, but the raw materials for the industries that really do underpin the Ontario economy. Iron ore for steelmaking, the materials for construction and infrastructure like cement, asphalt, and gypsum. We also handle exports, and our biggest export is Ontario-grown grain, which we know is really important in Durham region, and to the Durham agricultural community. Corn, wheat, and soybeans grown in Ontario. Most of those are using the export terminals at our ports in Oshawa and in Hamilton to reach overseas destinations. The Port of Oshawa comprises about 150 acres of land. It's been a port for more than a century, and our mandate is to optimize the use of these lands for industry, to try and look into the future, to anticipate what the needs of industry will be, and to work with our tenants and partners to develop and invest alongside our partners to develop their businesses. It's also part of our mandate to be good stewards of these spaces for future generations, recognizing that waterfront spaces are precious, particularly in the Great Lakes, and we have to be protective of the natural spaces that are adjacent to the port lands, particularly in Oshawa. We're right next door to the Second Marsh, and also to be good neighbors to the people who use waterfronts for residential and recreational purposes. Since we took over the management of the Port of Oshawa just over 5 years ago, we have kicked off a program of infrastructure investment and business attraction that leverages the value of the port to the regional economy. Our biggest investment so far has been a $35 million sort of overhaul of the west side of the port, extending the dock wall that you see there, and installing a second grain silo and grain drop-off infrastructure that really does enable a better service for agricultural users in the Durham region. We have 3 grain terminals and an oilseed crush facility in Hamilton. It's a very good, provides a very good service to agricultural producers in southern Ontario. But what we had been seeing a lot of times is Durham farmers in Durham region, farmers in the Kawarthas, and sort of within this sort of 100-kilometer radius, trucking their grain clear across the GTA to get to those terminals in Hamilton, and that, you know, it's not an ideal situation for them, because, you know, a farmer wants to spend more of their time on the farm and not in the truck, and and for everyone who's using our regional highways as well. And so it really did make a ton of sense to expand the grain export infrastructure here in Oshawa, and provide that sort of order of magnitude that allows now for the loading of full vessels, and really does has transformed the efficiency of this facility in Oshawa. We ran our first couple of vessels. The infrastructure was operational just towards the end of the harvest season last year, and so we were able to load a few vessels. But this will be the first full year of operation for the newly expanded grain terminal, and our feedback from farmers has been really, really great. So we're very optimistic. And not to make you dizzy, but that's just another view of the dome, silos from above. They're 10,000 tons each. A vessel can hold up to 30,000 tons, and so it really does allow for the pairing of a full load from the silos with some direct loading, can load a full vessel, and that's how we have achieved that efficiency over what was there before. One of the other things that we, where we do spend a lot of our investment dollars, our infrastructure dollars, is making sure that Oshawa Harbor and the approach channel meets the standards for seaway vessels. So keeping the channel clear means that vessels can arrive efficiently and safely, and that they can load to full capacity. I think previously, when the channel had not been dredged to full depth, that really compromised the value of the Port of Oshawa to the shipping community, because they were not able to load full vessels. But a regular program of dredging helps to solve that problem. One of the other things that we are working on to improve the fluidity of that west side of the port is the introduction of the ring road, the land exchange between Hamilton, or between HOPA and the city of Oshawa, for that little stem of the harbor road there, and we've been working very closely with the city of Oshawa on that, and also the assumption of the sort of southernmost stem of the Farewell from the region of Durham, which we've been working closely on. We've now awarded the construction contract, and we're mobilizing some of this infrastructure work probably by the end of the month, and we are hoping to complete construction by the end of 2025. And I'm passing along a shout out from my engineering team to Nia and Mark from the Works Department for the collaboration that they've been advancing with our team to help this work move forward. They've worked on a design that really does benefit the fluidity of truck movement through the port, and also preserves the public functioning of the roads in that space. We are looking to finalize the servicing plan and the utility connection permits, as I think is the next step on that. There has been some back and forth, so ensuring that there's sort of urgency around getting that to the finish line, I think is really important, because this the establishment of this ring road will first of all get port-related trucks into the port lands off of the city streets. So if there is staging, that's all done within the gates on infrastructure that we take care of. And also the ring road functioning of this will allow much more efficient movement of trucks as the farmers in particular are coming in, dropping off their crop, and then moving around. So there's no sort of shuttling backwards and the safety issues inherent in that. So we really do appreciate the ongoing collaboration of staff at Durham Region and pressing ahead on those the utility permits being the last sort of hurdle to seeing this project advance. Another sort of aspect, switching gears a bit, aspect to our partnership, of course, is our partnership with the Durham Region Economic Development Team. We, as a port, very much do work hard to attract investment to our port facilities whenever that makes sense. But in other cases, we're really just happy to be the best supporting actor. We work closely with Simon and his team and really do appreciate their collaboration. So just, echoing, I think, what Simon and his team know well, that if you ever need the port to be part of your pitch for why it makes sense for businesses to locate or grow anywhere in Durham Region, please don't hesitate to ask us to help bolster the supply chain component to that value proposition. And these are just some pictures of our visit alongside Durham Region to the Hanover Mesa conference recently. We were there to help establish increased east-west trade, which we all know is important these days, and really collaborating on a regional, Ontario, and a national scale to make sure that we are leveraging all of our assets to find new trading partners and to really diversify our trading relationships all around the world. So very, very happy to be part of the Durham Region and Canada contingent at that event. We have sectors of economic focus, just like Durham Region does, and there is certainly a lot of crossover and areas where we share strengths. Agriculture, I've already talked about, is a really big one for us. Manufacturing, of course, and those heavy lifts that are useful for the manufacturing sector. Film, we are active on Ontario Creates, offer some really unique kinds of spaces that are difficult to find anywhere else. So always happy to see film crews at our sites. Construction materials I talked about, that's a really important one for the Port of Oshawa because we do handle structural steel. That is a really important component to the GTA construction sector. The Port of Oshawa, really excellent sort of eastern gateway to downtown and to the Toronto region in general, and making sure that when we are looking at building more, both residential and civil construction, that we can get those materials into place efficiently. Support for the energy sector, again, those kinds of big lifts that are important when you've got major components for the nuclear and for other sectors. We saw come through the Port of Oshawa the big digger for the one of the Metrolinx crosstown projects. So big components like that we see a lot through the Port of Oshawa, and transportation and logistics just generally is part of our sort of broader network. Transportation and logistics companies are attracted by the idea that they are part of a sort of an ecosystem of transportation, and so we do see a lot of them sort of locate in regions and in jurisdictions where there is a port facility. So circling back a little bit to our big challenges, as the GTA population grows over the next several years, we have a responsibility, we feel, to do what we can to streamline transportation supply chains with Canada's competitiveness and productivity in mind. In the short term, we are doing things like I mentioned, rationalizing where the opportunities for Ontario agricultural producers to export their products through Oshawa as opposed to driving around through Hamilton. And we expect that change to enable the removal of as many as 12,000 truck trips a year, sort of on that 401 corridor to Hamilton, where those trips will be made to Oshawa instead, and not required to make that long journey. And we're also trying to think outside of the box a bit. You may have heard of our proposal to link the Port of Oshawa with a facility in Somerset, New York, with a truck ferry. This is we launched that initiative, and this has become a sort of strange time to be advancing a Canada-U.S. trade link. Nevertheless, we still think it's a very good idea and are doing some of the background work and anticipation of the trade relationship between Canada and the U.S. sort of moderating a little bit when we'll be able to sort of move full steam ahead on that facility that really does allow truck movements to avoid both the long trip around the Golden Horseshoe, but also those border crossings that can be clogged and where truck drivers might have cross-border issues. The reasons for us wanting to transform and to change are pretty simple. There's capacity on the Great Lakes where there is not capacity on the highways. Marine transportation is by far the most environmentally friendly way to move goods. And the more novel solutions that we can find to make this shift, the more competitive Ontario's economy can be. And we are starting from the position of trying to understand the market, the number of trucks on Ontario highways, their origins and destinations, what they're carrying. And we really think that this data is the key to understanding which among these trades flows is potentially a candidate for introducing marine services. It sounds like a straightforward project, but it's made difficult not as much by the complexity of the questions, but by the fact that the owners of the data tend to really like to hang on to their data. Transportation, in a lot of ways, is a bit of an old-fashioned kind of industry, and so getting the players in transportation to share their data to help us in a sort of a planning function understand how things are moving and how those movements might be optimized in the public interest is probably the bigger challenge. But we also see understanding and unlocking some of these sort of mysterious questions as being absolutely the key and our best opportunity to make a real difference in the long term, and our best opportunity to improve transportation in the greater Toronto-Hamilton area at a system level. Closer to the ground, I'll share a little bit about our community partnerships. One of our most important neighbors is the Second Marsh, and as you saw our land map earlier, we do have a significant buffer between the Port of Oshawa and the Second Marsh at the edge of our land, and we maintain 120 meters of space between our industrial activities and the boundary of the marsh. And we're also partnering with them on a Phragmites removal project to try and get a handle on this big problem in Ontario. We want people in Oshawa and in Durham Region to know about the port. Sometimes with industrial uses, there's a sort of an inclination to want to hide them or put them behind big fences or pretend that industry is not there. And we take the opposite view. We really want people to understand, embrace the idea that Oshawa and Durham Region are port cities and port communities, and that's a reason to celebrate. And so we want people to be proud to live in a port city. So we try to accomplish that by being by being a good port neighbor and by making community connections. We had doors open this past weekend, which was really fun. We had 3 busloads of people come through, do a tour of the port, understand how the port connects to the economic activity within their own communities. We're working on partnering with the city of Oshawa and their life jacket loaner program to encourage people to use the waterfront and to connect to the waterfront as much as possible. And we do have a number of sort of grassroots level community sponsorships that we're really proud to participate in. So looking ahead, I'll highlight one challenge and one opportunity. On the challenge side, we are absolutely seeing more climate change related extreme weather events. This won't be news to the people in this room, but what it means for us is more storms, more sedimentation, and more need to dredge. Dredging is extremely expensive. What we're seeing at the Port of Oshawa is more lateral movement of sediment along the shoreline and then curling into the approach channel. So we're beginning to look at a longer term solution to this, which probably means extending that east wharf a little bit into the lake where it's deeper. And that's a longer term project, and we're just starting to do our studies now, but it probably means, that's probably one thing that you'll be hearing more from us on in the coming years is an extension of that eastern wharf into the lake. On the opportunity side, I think we, along with other Great Lakes ports in both Canada and the US, are pushing to permit more containerization, more containerized goods to transit all the way into the Great Lakes and between Great Lakes cities and the big economies that are clustered around the Great Lakes. The Great Lakes is never going to see those massive container ships that you see in other ports, but it does make more sense to move more goods by water on barges or smaller vessels so that we can relieve some of the pressure on our regional highways and move goods between those Great Lakes cities more efficiently. I'm going to invite everyone here and everyone who might be viewing this meeting. If you do want to learn more about HOPA, we do have a report from the community event coming up on June 3rd. It's at the Jubilee Pavilion. It's free, it's open to the public, and you can find out more and register on our website. And these are all the other ways that you can stay in touch with us. Thank you again for your attention today, and I really do appreciate the time to introduce us and to answer any questions you might have.
That's great. Thank you very much, Larissa. Any questions, committee? Mayor Watton.
Thank you, Chair. And to you, Larissa, we had a presentation yesterday from the chair of the Durham Agricultural. So he certainly did echo all the good news and all the good works that you are doing at the port for the agricultural industry. But I just have one question, because it seems to me he also mentioned, and this may relate to the sedimentation or whatever, but he did say that at times there are only half loads being, is that related to that, or is it, I don't know, what is that he was referring to?
So traditionally that has been the case where if water levels are low, that might mean that you only get a half of a load, or historically, because we didn't have a second bin, if it was raining and you had to direct load, then they would have to cover and they would have to move on. So I think we are going to see, there are lots of variables, but I think as we move forward, you will see less of that light loading than we have in the past. Certainly, our partners among the vessel operators would absolutely like to see fuller loads. So, yeah, that
kind of stands to reason, doesn't it?
Yeah, the whole objective of the project is to increase the capacity and,
right.
the loading efficiency.
Right. Well, I'll just echo his words that that the farmers in Durham are thrilled.
Wonderful. That's great to hear.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Great.
Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Kerr.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. Good morning, Larissa. Great presentation. One of my degrees is in geography, and one thing that climate change or not, since the last 25,000 years after the last ice age, there's something called the longshore drift. And it's prevailing winds, and it's always taken sediment along the north shore of Lake Ontario. So it's not something that's new. It's why Prince Edward County is there today from the deposit. So when do you anticipate extending the west wharf, if you will, where the little lighthouse is? Because I think it's a great idea, and it would probably reduce the amount of dredging that you have to do. So I'm just wondering when you might be engaging in that.
Well, there's a number of as you can imagine, pre-studies to be done, and we are already undertaking those, and the sort of preliminary work and get engagement with the environmental assessment process. So I think sort of it's an inside the next 5 years kind of a project that we would want to advance that. It really. So it's on the, sorry, I'm not sure if I misspoke earlier. It is on the east wharf that we would want to extend.
Oh, the east wharf.
Yeah, so it's just south of where those, where the grain bins are now.
Yes, okay.
So we would want to extend out a groin into the lake, which would potentially also allow for a little bit of an extension of land into that space. That's the kind of thing that takes a lot of studying, but we very much would like to advance on it as quickly as possible, sort of
So
in the
the
next
idea
year
is to just
timeframe.
push the drift out into the lake, whether it's the west side or the east side. You're saying the east side where the grain elevators are, that's where you would extend it at.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay. Good luck with that, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it comes about. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
And that would allow a third ship, right?
Yes, it
Yeah.
would if we extended that dock.
Right now, there's 2 ships that can be on the east side, so extending out there would allow a third ship to be loaded and offloaded, right?
Yes, absolutely, and a little bit more diversity of cargo as a result.
Exactly. Yeah, thank you. Councillor Wu.
Yeah, through the chair, and good morning, Larissa. And
Morning.
again, great presentation. One of the slides, key sectors, and it says film. Now, can you expand, and especially when I speak about film, we just had somebody speak about tariffs on foreign films. So what is the idea with key sectors in film here at the port?
Sure, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. We do have lots of requests for filming, and we know that that's an important business for Durham Region as well. And so we do respond to inquiries and have had a number of productions across all of our port spaces, and we encourage it. It's not our core business, but if there's a space that we're not using or that we can sort of sneak a film crew into for a couple of days and it doesn't disrupt our other business, we absolutely welcome that and understand that it gives regions a bit more diversity in the kinds of productions that are attractive, and so we do. We have a page on our website to appeal to that sector, and we work with Ontario Creates, which is sort of the clearinghouse for film spaces in Ontario. I have heard the same thing you have about tariff. I don't know how it would work to impose tariffs on a service or intellectual property, like if a film is shot in several locations, like how that would even work. We are in the absence of a clear understanding, going to press ahead and continue to promote our spaces, and we'll see what happens. I think that's sort of in this environment the best we can do.
Well, I certainly agree with you. I think there's a lot of people that are scratching their head. The other one, and you mentioned about 12,000 truck trips per year that this would take off the roads. Now, the port itself, it's seasonal, isn't it? Or you're open 12 months of the year?
It is seasonal insofar as the Seaway shuts down from like the first week of January to mid-March sort of time frame, and so we're not loading vessels during that winter time frame. There is certainly still activity going on at the port, particularly if we have storage capacity or unloading of commodities like salt or fertilizer, for example, that might continue to be distributed through that time frame. But yes, the Great Lakes ports are essentially seasonal because of that winter shutdown.
Right. So when I speak, because there is a reliance on trucking from the point of just in time. And how does this fit into the just in time?
Well, as it relates to the agricultural sector, there very much is a sort of cadence of the harvest season and grain storage, both on farm and at the port, and so that's a supply chain sort of with a long history of accommodating the seasonality. We have been advocating, as of a number of folks in the marine industry, to see that window of closure compressed as much as possible over time. The St. Lawrence Seaway Management Corporation does need time to improve, to do maintenance on the locks and the other seaway infrastructure. There does need to be shutdown time, but the more that we can reduce that closure window, the more that marine can be relevant to more users. Right now, outside of those big bulk commodity users that have really built their supply chains around stockpiling and seasonality and have sort of accommodated for it, the need to do one supply chain thing 3/4 of the year and another supply chain thing 1/4 of the year is not ideal. And so to the we improve our effectiveness, the more we can see that window compressed. So we're certainly advocating for that through the Seaway to see that more of that happening.
Okay, thank you. And my last question, Chair. I noticed on the slide 8, but I would imagine it's the same at the Hamilton, where there's a big supply chain player, QSL, that owns quite a bit of land. There's joint. And I see there's properties that are to be developed. Do you sit there and help guide, or certainly with our planning staff and economic development, the future of this port and the growth of it and the fit into that supply chain? Because again, there's other lands that are there that are privately owned. And the Cashville is one of them that I see, and I know about the Cashville. Mm-hmm. The other ones too. How do you fit into that in guiding that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have a very close relationship with QSL. They have their relationship to us is sort of as our exclusive operator. So we do manage the lands and have a contract with QSL. The long-term sort of development is done definitely in collaboration with QSL. We do have a land use plan that we undertook when the amalgamation happened, and the purpose of that was to look into the future about what Canada's and what Southern Ontario's supply chains and industry was going to need as it grows, and we continue to obviously incorporate that kind of feedback and learnings on a regular basis. But the long-term planning vision really does rest with us, and we look to our partnerships at Durham Region and elsewhere to really understand, like, what are they seeing, what are we seeing in terms of the growth of the region, and how can we fit in and support. So there are lots of conversations happening at all times, but the long term sort of selection and direction of uses at the port comes back to us ultimately.
Well, thank you, Larissa. I look forward to seeing you at the Jube, and thank you, Chair.
Yeah, and I can tell you that Simon and his team are hooked in with HOPA. And over the last year, we've had a few things that, sometimes they come, sometimes they take longer to do. But I know Simon and his team are very much, in partnership with HOPA for those types of developments that would be good, not just for the port, but for the region. Councillor Pickles?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for your presentation. I learned a lot this morning. I don't want you to think that's unusual, but I did learn a lot this morning. I just wanted to follow up on Councillor Kerr's question about the extension of the weir. Given that it's a port authority, navigable waters, and international waters, I assume that when you talked about environmental assessment, there'd be federal environmental assessment. Is there also provincial environmental assessment, or what do you know that's going to apply there?
I'm not an expert in that space, but we do follow the federal environmental impact process.
Okay. I wonder if you thought if there's an opportunity, we have a newly elected government, and the Prime Minister has spoken about infrastructure projects, trade, and I think traffic congestion is something of interest to all of us. And he spoke about, for lack of a better word, expediting big projects. Now, I know this isn't a pipeline from Alberta, but I think it's a doable, easy win that we might want to speak to our recently elected MPs to see if this is a project that could get their attention and get some funding and get it maybe done more efficiently or expediently. Is that something that is on your radar?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, we are absolutely supportive of there being a flagship infrastructure program in Canada. We know that trade infrastructure in particular delivers that economic impact that is really the kind of thing that we absolutely need, and transportation infrastructure in terms of its multiplier effect is always a very good one. And so we were pleased to see those initial signals saying that they were going to first of all introduce a new flagship infrastructure program, and this idea that infrastructure projects that really do support that objective of bolstering trade diversification would be expedited. So we are at this moment now trying to assemble across our network a list of projects that would seem to fit that bill, and that we can advance as much as possible. So yeah, absolutely, the extension of that wharf would be one of those. I think it makes a lot of sense because of the Port of Oshawa's position as a key gateway, and the opportunity it has as this region grows to serve more of those industries. And so I really do think it does make a lot of sense.
I think it's a good candidate with a good story. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I guess we'll have to wait till the end of the month to see how much of that is really going to come into effect when we hear the King deliver the throne speech, and what the outcome of today is with the Prime Minister meeting with the President. That'll all be very interesting news watching later tonight, I'm sure. Thank you, Larissa. That's all the questions. Thank you very much. It was very informative, and appreciate you coming. I assume you live in Hamilton or in that area?
I live in Burlington, yes.
Okay, so thanks for coming through the traffic this morning to be here with us. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Have a good day.
You too.
Okay, we'll now move on to community growth. There's one report, 2025 CG6, Durham Active Transportation Committee, Township of Scugog membership appointment. Can I have a mover, please? Mayor Watton, seconded by Councillor Kerr. Any comments or questions? All in favor? Then that carries. I'm Going to do the reports on economic development separately because Councillor Kerr wants to do something with number C there when he's finished. Anyway, report 2025 ED 8, Hamilton Oshawa Port Authority General Update. Can I have a mover on that, please? Councillor Shaid, seconded by Councillor Wu. Any other comments that haven't come out or questions? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Report 2025 ED-9, 2024-25 Out of Office Tourism Marketing Campaign. Moved by Councillor Shaid, seconded. Seconder, Councillor Pickles. Comments? Councillor Shaid? Push button. There
Thank
you
you
go.
so much, Chair Chapman. I just wanted to ask a couple of things because Town of Whitby's also kicked off its tourism event, and I was very happy to see this. I just wanted to know, in terms of talking about last year's initiatives, those were awesome. My question was on the fact that there are many grants out there from the provincial government, of course, and with the new government, we'll see how we can apply for more and how we can cultivate more attraction towards our region. I was wondering, how do we apply for this, or this is more of an individual municipalities grant system that we could apply?
Okay, I'm going to go to Jackie Severs. Could you answer that? That's her area, so.
No problem. I'm happy to hear.
Through the chair, I believe the question is how do we platform more marketing for individual municipalities, or?
It's a two-pronged approach towards the fact that how do we get more money into our tourism from provincial grants that are available, but also how do we put a platform together to amplify the region altogether in terms of it's already there. However, let's say if Town of Whitby is doing something of an event to kick off its tourism, how are we amplifying that? So it's a two-pronged question. I put them together. I apologize.
Yeah, through the chair, we do work closely with the municipal partners on our tourism promotions. So there are instances where we're producing a campaign like this where we select the best of the best destinations and put together itineraries, recommended itineraries that combine destinations cross-regionally. But we do work with the municipalities as well on an ongoing basis. We host a meeting monthly with leaders from the local tourism teams and come together to discuss those campaigns. So we work closely, and then we also work to amplify initiatives that are happening at the local level as well. So if Town of Whitby is having an event, we would be a promotional partner with those events. In terms of tourism, visitors move freely between municipalities, and sometimes we'll build an itinerary, maybe visiting Thermia Spa while also staying in a hotel in the city of Oshawa. So there is benefit to those collaborative efforts to really show off the entire region and put together itineraries and packages collaboratively.
Thank you so much. In the line item through you, Chair, it says, building on the success of the summer 2024, in the late 2024, Durham Tourism applied for about $5,000 grant from the Central Counties Tourism Partnership Program. So this is what I was talking about, the fact that when we do apply for these grants, whether federal or provincial, how do we use them and how do we distribute them among other municipalities, or how do we amplify it for Durham region? So just an overview of how do we apply these grants and how are they used?
Through the chair, the funds that we received through Central Counties Tourism are through their partnership program, which is an application process. The decision is made by a committee of individuals that are pan-regional. So Central Counties Tourism represents Durham region, York region, and Headwaters region, which is largely Halton area. And so individuals from that group make the decision on how those funds are distributed, and businesses and municipalities can apply for them. And they offset their matching funds. So the region puts forward funds, and those funds can match to offset those costs, which allows us to use our annual budget funds for other purposes. So it allows us to do more and and reach broader audiences. Those are marketing-specific funds that they provide to us. We have to show that we spent those by sending back our invoices that we've spent those on marketing initiatives as we've promised.
Thank you.
It's
And-
more of, we apply for the money for certain things, and then we spend it from the regional perspective, which sometimes encompasses the lower municipalities on some of the partnerships that we do with tourism. But we don't take the money and say, you know, Whitby gets this much share and Oshawa gets this much share. It's spent sort of globally within the region, and depending on what the ask is for, what we've asked, you know, for what the grant is for, to spend on it. Sometimes it incorporates some of the lower tier municipalities, because this is where something regionally is being run, like in Whitby or Port Perry or whatever. Hope that helps.
Thank you. I just have one last question.
Sure.
And yes, it does help. Thank you. So let's say I can only speak on Whitby's perspective, so I'm just giving you an example. On Canada Day, we have the fireworks, and then we are launching in the summer our signature event called My Hometown. If these are the events, how does the region amplifies them as tourism events?
You mean, when you say amplify them, you mean support them, or do you mean
Support them
advertise
or
them, market them?
amplify them as marketing and so on and so forth to bring in more people to celebrate the significance of these events?
Yeah, through the chair, I can speak to that. I can speak to those two specific examples as well. So Canada Day, we know that Whitby's adjusting their plans this year due to the changes at the waterfront. So the fireworks will be the largest fireworks in the region. And so from a regional level, we do a number of different promotions. We have a very significant following on social media. We have a blog that drives traffic to our website, over 300,000 views of our website last year, which is a significant number comparatively to our partner tourism organizations. We do paid promotions, digital paid promotions. We partner with other levels of government. So we work closely with Central Counties Tourism, Destination Ontario, and others to get the best of the best events into their marketing as well. So that's through partnership, and we collaborate closely with the team at Town of Whitby to understand what those priorities are. In terms of Home Sweet Home, we are going to be a partner in that event, so we'll be there physically present with an activation. We bring our photo booth, which helps amplify that event year over year, building momentum as people participate with us and share it on social media, but we'll also promote that in all the things I just mentioned, as well as our e-newsletters, any of our paid promotional campaigns. Make sure our partners know about it as well. So it's going into various promotions. I know we have a relocation guide coming up soon and put together a directory of festivals and events, and it included that. We also would include that with Destination Ontario's submissions in terms of the events and festivals that they're promoting across the region or across the province and across Canada. So, I mean, there's a huge number, sort of a large list of different avenues and channels and platforms that we promote local events through. And we really do that in an ongoing conversation with the local municipalities to understand what are the best opportunities for tourism in the region.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to exactly hear. So I really do appreciate it. And I really want to say thank you for your hard work. And I'm looking forward to all the events in entire Durham region. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So on that report, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. We now go to 2025 ED10, Durham Region Music Industry Analysis Forum. You have a motion other than the recommendation. Is that correct, Councillor Kerr? Sorry.
That is correct, Chair
Sometimes
Chapman.
forget I have to push this button.
That's okay. I forget to push mine once in a while, too. So I have a replacement motion. I don't know whether the clerk can put it up on the screen. It's just as big here, so I'll read it for me here. That due to the strong potential economic and social benefits of a vibrant music industry, the Nordicity Music Industry Analysis Report be endorsed, and that staff be directed to consider opportunities to advance the key priority areas of that report through the 2026 business plans and budget process.
So I have a seconder, seconded by Councillor Wu. Did you want to speak to that, Councillor Kerr?
I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but just a couple of words of encouragement. We have an absolutely phenomenal music community in Durham region, and we have, here's a big word for you, a plethora of music venues of all types and sizes throughout the region. And this, as the report says, this is potentially a multi-billion-dollar industry that can be enhanced and developed for the full benefit of the region. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else want to speak on that? No? The interesting thing of this is how we sort of developed our film industry over the last number of years, right? Starting off slow. And I think the idea of this motion is to do the same. We need some at least seed money in the budget to be considered, and this would have some of that in the considering that to see if we can start something out moving in the same direction with music as we have with the film, which is fairly successful in our region. So, so all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you, Councillor Kerr. Advisory Committee resolutions. There's one from the Durham Active Transportation Committee, reference June Bike Month. Can I have a mover of that? Councillor Shaid, seconded by Councillor Kerr. Comments or questions? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Durham Agriculture Advisory Committee, Toronto Region Conservation Authority Rural Cleanup Water Program. Can I have a mover of that? Councillor Pickles, seconded by Councillor Shaid. Comments, questions, otherwise? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. There are no confidential matters. The next meeting is Tuesday, June 3rd at 9:30 a.m. Any other business? Motion to adjourn. Councillor Kerr, seconded by Councillor Shaid. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much, folks.